When it comes to installing windows and trimming them out with a rainscreen system, you have a couple of options. You can install the window 3/4 of an inch out by placing it over some plywood bucks, which makes for a trim install with no extension jambs. In this demonstration, we're going to show you with the window installed flush back at the sheathing plane and 3/4 of an inch of extension jamb to make that work. You'll also notice that up here, I've left out a piece of strapping. This is intentional, and we'll get to that after the trim install. So whenever possible, I like to batch cut and pre-assemble any of my exterior trim. It's pretty common that you're going to have multiple windows on a project that are the same size, and this allows you to set up stop blocks and repeat cuts and get the most efficiency out of your work time. You can see here we've got 2 windows cut for today, and I'm going to walk you through the steps on how to assemble one on the bench. So one of the first steps we're going to do is we're going to use 2 pieces of material here. A piece of 5/4 and then a piece of 1/2 inch sheet stock. And we're going to laminate them together to make some thicker material in order to give our head casing of our window some good presence. First step you want to do is wipe any loose dirt off of your parts. Bead size is predetermined by the 2-part mixing tip that comes with the product. I like to try and keep the adhesive away from the edges a little bit. That way when I put the 2 pieces together, I don't get a lot of squeeze out. So I'll place them, make sure everything's coming together nicely. A little rock back and forth for good adhesion. Then I'll start at one corner, pin the corner, then go to the opposite corner, make sure everything's lined up there, pin that together. Now I'm just going to add a series of brads down the length to act as clamps while the adhesive cures. Now we've made an 1.5 inch thick piece that we can set off to the side and let dry for a few minutes. So these are my casing legs for my window. I'm going to pre-assemble the whole window using glues and pocket hole screws. So this is a pocket hole drilling jig. They're really simple. This one has a clamp right here that can be adjusted for your material thickness. There's also automatic clamps available. Clamps onto the piece, and what it uses is this drill bit right here with a stepped finished end that makes a pilot hole for your screw. You set the jig up by adjusting for your material thickness as well as the thickness of the material that you're going into, which is dictated by the stop collar. These are all referenced off of the jig. So once your pocket hole screws are drilled, it's as simple as using the appropriate size screw. Goes onto the driver and into the pocket hole. It makes a reasonably strong joint, which is good for pre-assembly, but not great for structural applications. So what I've done here is, in order to compensate for the difference in thickness of the 2 pieces, I just have some scrap 1/2 inch material here to help me flush up my back edge. With this design, I have a 1/2 inch overhang of the head casing to the leg. So I'm going to use my combination square, set it 1/2 inch to reference my parts. This piece that we're using today is a piece of historic sill. We have a flat here for the casing leg to land on, a pitched sill section to divert water away from the window, as well as an integrated drip kerf on the bottom, which helps the water drop from the building. So now that our frame is roughly assembled, we're going to go ahead and flip it over and do a little bit of detail dress up on the headpiece. The way we're going to accomplish that is we're going to use a piece of 1/2 inch material out of sheet stock right here to create a cap and a piece of bed molding to dress up the head section. I'm going to start now by gluing and tacking on this cap. So this profile right here is, I believe, an 1 5/8" bed mold. Clear makes this profile, and something that I really like about their trim is it has a really nice closed grain finish on it, which makes for a really crisp detail. So now that I have my returns glued on, I'm going to give them a minute for the glue to tack up and set, and then I'm going to go ahead and fasten this piece off here. For this, I'm using 18 gauge 1.5 inch stainless steel. That gives our miters a chance to firm up and look really nice and crisp before we go possibly tweaking the pieces and opening the joints. So in order to compensate for the thickness of our rainscreen, we're going to add some extension jambs onto the backside of our trim assembly here. You can see what I've done is simply ripped some 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch PVC stock that builds out the thickness of our rainscreen battens. Now I'm going to apply some adhesive and nail them on with some 18 gauge 1.5" stainless steel fasteners. So with our rainscreen battens fastened over top of our framing, you may run into a situation where you have to add some other pieces in order to give you backing for your trim assemblies. In this case here, we're going to add a ripped piece right here and a piece to this side to fully support our trim. So this is looking good and ready for installation. I'm going to start off by giving myself a couple of center marks and pre-start my screws so that I'm not having to juggle with fasteners while I'm holding this on the wall. As we mentioned before, we left off the rainscreen strapping above our window. The reason for that is we're going to want to install a rigid metal cap flashing over top of our window to keep the continuity of our water management system. After that's in place, we can come back and install the strapping above the window head. With our window trim installed, we've effectively covered all of the high points of installing exterior trim over a rainscreen in preparation for siding. I want to thank you for watching Shop Class.